Hello, everybody. Welcome to Game Cave Development February. Wow, it's been 2 months, Brandon. Brandon James is joining me, aka Lead Heavy. Say hi, Brandon.
Hello.
So this is really for all the backers and basically anyone else on YouTube who can be following this. But I've tried to find the easiest way to update the Kickstarter that doesn't involve 6 hours of me placing pics and writing text and copy proofing text that most people just skim through, look at the pictures, and don't read anyway.
Yep.
So I figured if you're that interested in an in-depth update, this is the easiest thing for me to do is to make a video that just streams right into the YouTube, so it's always there. Um, and then likewise, if you'd like to just get the daily updates through the Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, then you can do that as well. So just bear with me 1 second, folks. I've been getting over a cold. 1 second. I will attempt to mute that as much as possible. So what has happened? What has happened? First off, I have Brandon here joining me. He's new to you backers, but over time he won't be. If you followed the podcast at all, Brandon's been on there up until the very end. For what, you were about what, a year and a half?
Yeah, a little over a year and a half, I think, or
Yeah.
a year and a half.
Right. And I recently ended the podcast for a multitude of reasons, but let me just scale us back and explain to you all what's happened since November, which is the last time I updated the Kickstarter. So I went to do my December update, and it was about mid-December, and family came into town. So I figured, hey, I'll spend Christmas with the family and update this as soon as they leave, which is like on the 26th or 27th. And so did the whole Christmas thing. Had to take the nephew out to Disneyland. It was real good fun. Come back on the 26th and worked on a commission. Was going to make my update on the 27th, literally the day I finished the Mononoke piece. And my father uh, basically had a cardiac arrest and passed on the 1st of January. So that sent my life into a little bit of a interesting spell, right, Brandon? I mean, this is true. I'm not making this up.
Yeah, it was a disarray. You were pretty. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously for reasons, but yeah, you were.
Right. And so then I got sick. I got the cold, like literally on the second. That took a couple weeks. Couldn't even talk. We couldn't even do podcast, right?
No, you were. I wouldn't say deathly sick, but you were nasty sounding. It wasn't
Yeah,
fun.
it was pretty bad. And so that kind of cleared up, and we started to stream. And then I had the funeral on the 26th of January, and I got sick again on the 27th. I imagine from just the stress, and God knows who I was hugging at the funeral.
Right.
So, and that was deathly sick again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just as mean. So I did nothing but sleep the last 2 weeks of January because I'm like, I'm young, I take care of myself, so this relatively, bro.
Yeah, I know.
So I mean, I take care of myself better than you.
Yeah, you do
So
good things. Yeah.
yeah, so I was like, well, I'm gonna sleep. Anyhow, so I get this update on the Kickstarter. Jan or somebody wants to know if they can get an update, and I'm like, fuck, I'll start typing. So I start typing, and I don't want to get into it, but lo and behold, I decide I want to go draw instead. like after, because we had to update the digibooks, and then we did all that, which I took a full weekend. And then I go to start updating this, and it just eats up time. It's like I'm 3 hours into it, and I'm like, there has to be an easier way to show all this stuff because a lot has transpired. Even though I've been sick, I have been working, like as much as humanly possible. So let me show you what I've been doing. I'm going to start here with the writing first off on GameCave, so we can get right through it. And basically, it's like this. I initially figured GameCave would be about 100, maybe 120 pages, okay, including the video game magazine stuff and the novella portions. When the fit hit the shan, and I decided to make a real story, I figured, well, I'll just have less art and I'll have more story in the book pages. Um, so I went out, built the whole GameCave world, did all the writing over the summer, got the outline built, started the chapters, got to about chapter, out of 24 chapters, got to chapter 8, in the beginning of October, and I started to kind of go, this is a lot of words. Like, like I just started doing the math. Like, let's see, if I'm averaging 4,000, 5,000 words a chapter, like I'm already up, 20, 30,000 words. Like this is the easy chapters. I mean, there's some more complex shit. So what I started doing was plugging in the actual text into pages, which you guys have seen some initial stuff with that. But what I wasn't able to do was really work it out. So this right here is demo art, demo logo. You may have seen this before, but with some text. But let me show you what this does. Let me go right here. I'm in InDesign right now. So you can see here's, another page. And then now we go into the actual book. And you could see just chapter one alone, like chapter one, you can see how much space it starts to eat up. One second. Let me go over here and over here. And these are just like showing the designs of the ships, the design of, an area, a character, a map, some supplemental materials. Not a lot of, it's not like I'm drawing scenes here. These are like designs, concept art kind of stuff.
Right.
So that alone eats up, chapter one alone eats up about 18 pages. 18 pages. So you go, well, that's not a lot. Well, if I already add up the magazine portion takes up about 60 something pages, you can start to do the math, right? Like if it's 20 pages a chapter times 8, that's 160 pages. Now that's not accurate because every chapter fluctuates, but I started to freak out that I had a 500-page book in front of me. You know what I mean? Which I did not budget for a 500-page book at all. So I actually went through and for every chapter put in the actual text in its current, I'd say if in a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say it's like at a 9 right now. It needs some editing. It needs some minor edits and copy editing. So I went through with every chapter and I did the actual math, and I was looking at, if I cut it off at chapter 8, I was looking at about 150 to 160 page book, which is already 30, 40 pages over my budget. Hold on one second. I still get a little phlegm when I talk. So, uh, so anyhow, this math and this constant tweaking of the pages and dropping in the stuff and actually figuring out what art needs to go here, this ate up 2 weeks. Like this is not easy. Like, okay, I'm gonna plug in the text and then this key art needs to go here. This, and then I have to be conscious of what kind of art is going where, what's important. Uh, beyond designing the pages, the page layout design took 5 revisions alone. I mean, you saw a lot of the work in progress on that, right, Brandon? Like,
Right. You've definitely gone over it and over it and over it and retuned everything very thoroughly.
yeah, one of the big things that I did, and I'll zoom in here, is I added this menu bar so that anywhere in the book you'll be able to see where you're at, except for because the Game Cave, the video game magazine sections, excerpts from the history of Game Cave. So I know initially the plan for the book was that it would be themed per issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was going to be all fighting games. And then the second issue would be sci-fi. The problem I have with that is the minute I say it's all fighting games, then people go, I don't like fighting games, I don't want your magazine. It's like, or book or whatever. And it's like, but it's not really about that, you know? So these are still a lot of fighting games because of the nature of, I told people this stuff would be in here, so I got to do it. But what I did was I took it and I said, okay, it's going to be excerpts from Game Cave magazine throughout its 30-year history. And what I've done is I've taken magazines, and I'll get more into this later, but I've distilled them into like several types. So you have like a Nintendo Power look, You have a Game Fan, classic Game Fan look. You have Gamers Republic. You have these were all video game magazines throughout the years. Edge, Play Magazine, that sort of techno minimalist feel, and then the modern, what I would think a magazine would look like now. So this way, I'm able to also show the history of gaming magazines subtly, right?
Right.
Through their different like visual motifs and the things they used to cover, while doing a game review. So this way, it isn't like here's my game review. Here's me reviewing TMNT2. It's just an excerpt from an era when they did review it. So it's fun to read the reviews. It's cool to get the layouts. It captures a bit of gaming history in a way. But it also means that I can do whatever game, like from here on out, we can do whatever games we want. And when I put up a slot for someone to say, hey, you can review a game, one of those tiers, those people can pick a game out of any era, and then I have a spot for it. And so this is right here, the whole little side thing. And it'll be highlighted on whatever chapter you're in. So you can see I've already worked in the spots. I had to narrow it down to some history on Game Cave Magazine, TMNT2, the arcade game, instead of being the tournament fighter. I needed an NES era game, and fighting games didn't really exist, so I decided to use a brawler, to sort of do that. Game Wizard, and then Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 2, Killer Instinct, and then we get to some Darkstalkers, Power Stone 2. You'll see these are actually all in chronological order, by the way. So the games appear historically too, right?
Right.
So we'll start with NES and come all the way up to the modern era, which in this case will be JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and then finally a Neo Retro. And the Neo Retro and Best Pick. So Best Hit. Let me explain this. These last two pieces will be. This will be their best favorite fighting games of all time. So I'll be able to cram in all those things in a format that I used to do in Game Fan, which, by the way, is the same format that Game Cave comes from. In old Game Fan magazine, there used to be an advertisement in the back called Game Cave, right? And it was these little previews for all these import games. It was a direct-to-buy import store. And it would be all these previews of games you can get from Japan. And I loved them because it was like a lot of 2D anime-looking games, and I love that
Right.
stuff. So that format is what I use to do the top picks over when we're doing Game Fan 2010. So that'll be in here. And the Neo Retro, the goal is to take a modern game and show where its mechanics came from with the retro game. So for the lack of a better explanation, imagine Shovel Knight is a modern game, right? On Steam and Wii. Its main mechanic was DuckTales, the pogo stick. So it would be like, here's a Shovel Knight, and then in between there, here's DuckTales where it gets its stuff from, and then you wrap up Shovel Knight. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to say that that will be a Shovel Knight review. There'll probably be some fighting game. I think it's gonna be Skullgirls. I think it's going to be Skullgirls, and then I'll take you to more Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where it got its, you know, gameplay from, and then wrap up Skullgirls. I think is what it'll be in this one. So, and then we'll have a Volume 2 preview and a credits. So, interestingly enough, interestingly, I had plotted the story out for Volume 1 to be 24 chapters. If you divide, that by 3, you get 8 by 3, you get 24. So, Game Cave was going to be 3 books. Now it really will be 3. You know what I mean? Like the number of books that I initially planned turned out to be what my story fits anyway. So,
Worked out better.
yeah, well, it worked out. I wish I could have contained it in one issue, the story, because what I fear is moving forward, people will go, I don't want to buy Volume 2 because,
Right.
that class. But what can you do? You know what I mean? Like,
I
what kind
think
of,
once Volume 1 comes out, they'll be like, when can I get Volume 2? I think that'll be the.
I hope, right?
I hope so too, because I helped. So
So here's
I mean,
some chapter 4, and these are all spoilers for this stuff if you read it. And then, but you can see as it goes through the chapters, there's a color scheme, right? Oh, look at that green, and then and more green, and then Yeah, red, blue, green. So, and then it wraps up with gold, which will be around chapter 8. Let me set this to high quality. Chapter 7 and 8, I've had to go back and do a lot of tweaking too, because initially in my outline, the all the characters didn't actually really get together until about chapter 12. And I'm like, I can't have a first volume where all the characters don't get together. Like that can't fucking happen.
Right.
It's not that big a deal because chapter 7 is where they finally get to Game Cave, so the store. So I can just sort of deal with that there. I've been tweaking that. So what else have we been doing? Let me go down. Do do do. So also I've been marketing the spot for art. Now this is where branding comes in. I will show you what I have done here. So what I started to do, let me switch to my live camera and can you see that?
Uh-huh.
Let me off click there. Okay. So what I started to do was sketch out locations and stuff. And this takes place in chapter 4. This is stuff from chapter 4. There's a huge fight that takes place outside a creperie, a crepe patisserie, a crepe shop. I call it crepes a lot. And here I drew a little map. And these are all the people Bombcat gets into a fight with. These chefs, and there's a big chef called Busboy. And this was my initial sketch. So I took this initial sketch of the store and then built a secondary sketch here called Crepes a lot. And you can sort of see this idea. I wanted to be kind of like in this corner alcove, and there'll be like a window they can get into a fight. And this is not to proper scale, but this was just an initial stab at that idea. And I'll have more right here. Just give me a second. So I took the sketch, and I immediately started thinking like, uh, if I have an interior and an exterior, like here's the interior sketch. If I got this, blowing this up and cleaning up this art is going to be a real fucking pain in the ass. Like, sketching this really isn't hard for me. It's about an hour or two, of just sort of like figuring out what I want to go where. But to clean up sketches and to move them around, I was like, man, this is going to be a lot of fucking effort. Um, so I figured, Brandon, you don't have anything to do, right?
Nope.
Right? You got nothing going on.
Nobody's
So
bugging my mind lately.
I know that seems mean, but it's sort of true, right?
Right.
Right. So I'm like, you should learn SketchUp. And you could take my drawings and make them into block models that I can then rotate, figure out the angle I want, and then draw over that and get a really cool drawing from. And Brandon, have you ever used 3D before in your life?
Never.
Never, right? You don't even really understand perspective, let alone
As sad as it is, I can't. I don't draw the best perspective or
right.
understand it.
So, but you took me up on the challenge, right?
Yes, I did.
Right. And so let's go see what Brandon has been doing. Can you see that?
Now, yes, I can.
Okay, great. So let me open up here and we will start with crepes. Crepes a lot. So let me just move the interior stuff into a separate folder. Preview. So this is you beginning to model the outside of crepes a lot, right?
Right, this is my first start of it all, of 3D modeling.
So you want to talk about this a little bit? What it was like to take the little sketch that I did and
Uh,
start to build this?
you gave me a lot of information. It was just a lot for my mind to comprehend of actually building a building per se in an actual place, and there was a lot of frustration on my end because my mind wasn't seeing it yet. For someone who doesn't know perspective, it's hard to see pillars and blocks, and you start to notice things that you don't notice walking down the street or you walk into a restaurant, that there's a lot of cuts and beams and stairs and everything you don't notice that goes with building something that maybe a contractor type person would notice, but not a
Let
normal
alone the
house.
design aspects. Like I want certain weights on,
Right.
I want certain things to have a certain amount of weight. Figuring in for actual scale, right? Like you could type in 13 feet, but if it looks wrong, it looks wrong, right?
Right.
So this was your first pass at the exterior. Now this is the second pass, and you can see you already started to block in the windows. Now name some of the, let's talk about some of the stuff that you kind of were fucking up on here, right? Like, so Brandon's doing a pretty good job, but then you start to do some things that maybe this particular screenshot doesn't show, right?
Yeah. It the ends everything like look may look normal right here, but everything wasn't fundamentally sound. Uh, there wasn't much of a floor. The back walls they weren't all there. Uh, a lot of the windows were way too giant. Like imagine a 20-foot window or the door being 20 feet tall for giants and the stairs being only a
Yeah, the
foot
door
tall.
size was huge compared to what a table
Oh
would be,
yeah, yeah. It
right?
was everything was very off scale and nothing seemed right. It was pretty bad.
So it sort of involves you having to kind of constantly kind of go back and start over from scratch in a way, right?
Yeah, it and take maybe a model person that's 5'10", 6 foot, place him in certain spots and just see how he measures up to a door, how he measures up to the stairs, and rotate everything constantly and just seeing how maybe one of those rails was way up high and the other one's really low.
It's also some good advice for freelancing. How many times did I tell you, show me what you have that night, and you didn't do it
Yeah,
because you wanted to kind of like get more progress, only to find out that I don't like any of it, and I could have saved you 2 days of needless work, right?
yeah. When it comes to just artists, any artist listening, if the person who's paying you or the person who's giving you opportunity, if they want to see it, if it's bad, just show it to them. Just show them something so you're not wasting time and going in the wrong direction. Because I spent a lot of time making a lot of wrong stuff on this that ended up with Rob not yelling at me, but telling me, hey, sit down, let's talk about this and get it right and get on the same page.
Yeah,
And
because I don't want. It's like I want to sit here and go, "You dumb mother."
right,
It's that you're just wasting your time. And by the way, there's nothing more defeating than having to start over and redo work.
yeah,
I mean, I personally can't stand it. So if I'm going off in the wrong direction, I like to know early, so I'm not wasting my time.
mm,
All right, so let's move on to another revision. So now we got. This was after a lot of back and forth, right?
yes, lots of.
So what did it take to get to this point?
It took us actually Skyping or Google chatting and you drawing out things over some of my stuff and showing me exactly how it should look and also how everything was not in right places or look right. In this one, you could tell, you know, the stairs weren't quite right. Uh, the the top windows sticking out were very hornish like. They were very up sharp. The roofs were all tinted in. Like you see all the lines on the roof. That's me after trying to fix it, but they were very disproportional and dented in.
Right. So let's. And then now you fixed a lot of that. You threw it in the chimney. You started to work in the little rails, right? And you built the chair. Now I would love to talk about these chairs for a second because you could see this really ornate detail. You right? I mean, if you really try, you might be able to, like, look. You see this?
My
Look at this.
craftsmanship.
Yeah, this is a bunch of bullshit you did that I
If
told you not to do, right?
yes, for any artist listening, if someone tells you to make something and they just tell you to make a chair or something simple, a car or anything, you don't have to spend 2 hours embellishing something that you're not going to see in the first place. Focus on the details they ask you to focus on and overlook the small stuff. And that,
Right.
yeah. And the chairs were really bad. I spent a lot of time.
Well, let's open up the model. Let's
Yeah.
open up the model into SketchUp, which is a free program, and we can actually show. So now here's what you see when you start zooming in, right? Start coming over here, and I see you clean some of this up, but you actually molded out shit,
Oh yeah, there were
and they were like,
cutouts and
and they went in,
there were circle designs
and you're
and
doing all these, yeah, these things. You're like, oh, I'm gonna hook these up, and I'm like, dude, the fucking drawing, it's gonna be like way the fuck out here, dude. Like,
right.
like that's so impossible.
I was trying to make him look like one of the like faces or something. I couldn't remember what I was
And
trying
then
to
you
do.
didn't initially model any of this backside, which I
Oh,
told you to do.
there was nothing back there. And this
Yeah.
door that I first did, the back door, was almost to the ceiling. It was so
Yeah,
weird.
which is crazy when you think about the scale. This is when you finally started using this little Stan Lee guy.
Right.
And I told him shove him everywhere in the model. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Just put him everywhere so you can start to see how big this stuff actually is. You know? I still think that door is probably a little too big, but yeah, doesn't really matter.
We're tall guys.
Yeah, he's floating. So, but this is your first model ever,
This is my
ever,
first attempt at anything 3D ever.
anything 3D ever, and I think all things considered, pretty good job, dude.
Thank you.
You know. So the next step for me to do here is to just start doing the draw over in a final color. But that's next. So let's move on to the next model. Oh, I can show you guys really quickly. Let me see. A lot of this. Open up the Facebook page. Yeah, see, this was an initial color version I did right over my sketch. And then I did with one of your rough models, I did a quick paint over. Oh, this is what I did to give you an idea right here.
Yeah.
This is to show you the idea that I kind of have in my head. And this is what you really modeled from this little squiggly right
Right.
here.
It really helps. Things like the pillars at the bottom left and just seeing how the stairs went.
Yeah, and if you didn't start modeling, honestly, folks, this is about the best the art would be in this book um, for the exteriors because I don't I have 3 to 4 hours a night and I just like there's only so much I can deal with and it was gonna be really concepty or I was gonna have to get some help. So I'm glad you joined on board.
Thank you.
But yeah, so good job, dude. And you can see this is my overhead map right here, and where I had the idea for the storeroom, kitchen, freezer, all that stuff. So let's see here. Let's get into the next. Let's go inside the model. So this right here is your initial block model of the interior.
Hmm. Just trying to lay down some walls, the back bar piece, an entrance, and just kind of put some chairs to just get some feel of where everything is in there.
And I think initially you didn't even have like windows and stuff, and I was like, you might want this all to like line up properly. Like you modeled all these windows and then you didn't actually stick them on this. I was like, why didn't you just use your old model? And why you were like rebuilding this from scratch? I'm like, you just built. I had to like stop you and
Hmm.
have you like go make a duplicate of your model and build into that because I'm like, you already did this. Like, Why would you build something brand new that's not even going to match up?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
It
So.
I probably redid that initial just the floor plan and the walls. I don't know 6 times before you said just tear down the outside and work at it. So
Yeah, you'll never do that again, right? You'll just if you
never
build an exterior, then you use that as a basis for your interior, right?
correct.
Right. So, which yeah, you can see here. These are
This
some of
this is the final one.
the final one, the pillars.
Yeah, added all the pillars, added all the booths, all the windows that
Resolution difference here in your image, brother. What's up with that? This is all
oh
super low.
my bad. I might have accidentally put the JPEG
Nice
in.
high res, nice super low res. Look at that.
Just so everyone knows, make sure you have organized folders for things like this, then you won't have the mistake. I
Yeah, you
have
actually didn't include the model. I had to use my Rev 11.
yeah, I my some of my files got a little mixed up there when I was doing it. Make sure you start from the beginning organizing your files, people. Number them, label them, keep everything organized. I have the bad habit of not doing that. And now, once working more with Rob, I realize how important it is and how much it's needed.
But yeah, you can see here.
Gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, you
That's
did a good job actually. Perfect for block modeling.
right.
I mean, draw right over this shit, light it. Add all the stuff, you know. Second model ever, right?
Yep, second time I've ever
Look
tried
at
to
that.
do
You got all sorts of talent you didn't even know you had. You just gotta like follow direction. I mean, look, folks, it is tough. I won't lie. Meeting someone who has, if you're a person who will build things for someone, it's tough to meet someone who has one, a vision, right? But two, knows exactly what they want. I can't tell you how many times I worked with writers or editors that never knew what they wanted. And then I was endlessly making things for no fucking reason. You know what I mean? Like endlessly. So I understand when if you come across someone that does know exactly what they want, sometimes it's like difficult to trust that you want that, right? Like you know what I mean? Like when I say it's done, dude. You know, like don't do no more. Did you have a version where you put the poles in the center?
it.
Did you actually build the booths and stuff, or I tell you not to worry about that?
I think you told me not to add that in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it cluttered stuff up, right?
Right, it was too much like that
Yeah.
whole middle.
Yeah. I'm just gonna put like plants and shit right here. So cool, dude. This is the interior of Crepes a lot. So let's see what's next. Let's go to so let me go back to the camera. So this was me describing to Brandon how the shapes should be three-dimensionally, like it just sketching them out. Um, this is an overview map of Butter Bay, where the story takes place, which you will be modeling. This is their 36-hour clock. I had to actually figure out how that works. Um, and these are, let's see here. So the interior of Crepes a Lot was actually in another book that I had sketched up. I just started to buy this, and I'm keeping all my designs in this one book from here on out. These are Milos. This is another character from chapter 5. But next we have Game Cave Online. The big there's some big models to do for the book. So you have Game Cave Online, which takes place in the Rift, which is their virtual world. Um, then you have the physical store, which is Game Cave Shop. When these are my initial sketches for sections of Game Cave Shop. We don't have to do the whole thing in supermodeling on this issue. There'll be a basic block model exterior of the or cutout of the store, and then there'll be three or four detailed modelings. But I wanted you to do that last because I care the most about Game Cave Shop in
Right.
terms of the accuracy. But these are me starting to work that out right before I got involved with the writing layouts. Like, where's this shit gonna go? You know what I mean? I was like, once you started to do the modeling well, I was like, okay, I need to know exactly how much shit you're doing. And by the way, if you had, you know, 24 more, or let's see, 8 minus, what's 24 minus 8? 1, 2, the school failed me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 16. If you had 16 more chapters with the material, we'd be doing this till next year, right?
Right.
So, it's good that we figured this out so we can actually finish this fucking thing up. But Game Cave Online is chapter 2. So that was the next thing I had you work on. Let me go back to the screen share. Start and then present. Let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
All right. So Game Cave Online. First, I did a bunch of reference of like 90s malls and 80s malls. So my idea for the Game Cave, the Rift Mall, is that when you go online, you'd have I had the idea that they would all their games and the place where they buy items and stuff would look like an 80s mall, classic mall. Mostly because I love malls, and I would just think that, if Xbox Live were a place you could go, it'd look like a fucking mall. You know what I mean? Like, I think we
Right.
would have stores where you'd buy weapons and they'd all be digital and you'd go in there and take them to your game and play them there. So I put together a grip of reference for 80s malls here. This is like actually in the 70s. I like a lot of this geometrical patterns online. I wanted these sort of geometrical repeating patterns. Um, I'm not so much a big fan of this cage. It's a weird cage, like finally it's like a prison.
Right.
But I like this a lot. These sort of things, and then it's white, heaven-like. It's almost like heaven, right? Purgatory.
Right.
No direct sunlight. I mean, it's sunlight, but it's being filtered through these skylights. So, old Sam Goody, right? Love that. Old Sam, love it. Um, this actually looks like a mall I used to go to in Frankfurt. Just like this. Sam Goody. I think I like this. And wow, look at that's crazy. 79. So a lot of this, I can show you some of the gaming stores I put. So software, etc. Classic gaming stores. Love this. This is the classic software, etc. for me. Oh, look at that, Lord British. And so I showed all this stuff to you, and I gave you an initial sketch, and then let's see. I don't know what this Photoshop file is actually. Oh, this was an initial roughie I did to kind of give you an idea of what that would look like. My class stuff I was helping you with. So let's go here. So let's start with the interior. The interior of Game Cave Online. This is where Truffles works. And we open up in chapter 2 with her. And so this was an initial floor plan based off a sketch that I had done. Um, I might be able to bring that sketch up. I think it's in the Facebook. I don't have all my sketches organized right now. I have to do it for the making of book, but I'm like saving that. And I'm trying to only spend my time working on what's needs to be done now. So some of the Game Cave, or in terms of the artwork, is a little disorganized right now. See, like here's all my roughies for Game Cave. Where's the online sketch? It should be right over here. Uh, Geez, it should be right there. And Palmcat stuff. Hmm. Blood Orange Gulch. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Here it is. That little sucker right there. You can see this. This was my initial little sketch. There's Game Cave Shop.
Right.
Ooh, yay. Can't wait to make that. And so this was my initial idea I did last June. And I was like, uh, I want something like this. So based off that basic little thing, this is what you made to begin with. So I gave you a lot of reference to in terms of curving the walls and the kind of architecture. These little game kiosks and this idea that you'd have these. It would look like a video library in a way, or old Blockbuster video, where you'd go in, you'd be able to pick up a game. You'd pick it up, but the game would still be there. But you just grab your copy, the new digital one appears. Take it to the front desk, you purchase it. It disappears, goes into your inventory. You have the game, and you can go to these things called warcades, and you go play your games in the warcades. So, is your initial cutout? Any thoughts on like building this, Brandon? Anything you want to say about
It
the
was a lot.
challenges?
Yeah, it was a lot different working curves instead of just everything being squared and angled. So it was definitely you go from a mindset of okay, everything's squared, everything has ridges, everything's got this weight to it, as Rob referred earlier, where things have a chunky look, where wood has chunk to it, and doorsteps and things, and you get to something sleeker like a store like this, and everything has to be crisp, and there's rounded edges, and there's curved backgrounds, and that back wall alone was a big challenge. That was a pain, a very big pain to do, and same with the window that curves around the wall to the left there.
Yes,
That
SketchUp doesn't really like curves,
not at
so
all.
you're training in Maya right now, like you've upgraded.
Yes.
But I started you in SketchUp because if you started in Maya, you can understand now what I mean about that's not probably the best way to start,
Right.
right? So let's move on to Rev 2. So now you sort of blocked in, you drop down the floor, and now these right here, I imagine there's two kinds of kiosks. These would be where you can come and try any game, right? that you want. But then I also have this idea of having these things, which would have the three modern consoles set up, and it would sort of resemble a modern kiosk. So here you could play any game from any era, right? It's sort of like an LCD screen. That one you could play here, and maybe it's got advertisements for shit you can buy, stuff like that. But then here you can go and play a game that's a modern game. Um, and again, anything that's digital is just aesthetic. It's just to give it the feeling of a video store or a gaming store, classic gaming store. You can see here you change the scale of the little carts.
Right.
And let's go to. So now you've sort of blocked all this stuff in, right?
Right. This is where I dropped everything in. This might be the final look of it. I think we decided on, but made sure all the bookshelves were of people height, so it's not just down at their knees and people have to bend down, but it's an actual. When maybe people who are a little bit older might know how Blockbuster used to be, where they'd have giant racks of movies and video games, and made sure I dropped everything in and made it look pretty.
Yeah, so let's see the model. Now, did I tell you to delete these?
No, there
These
was
two?
there was two.
That's right. There was
You had
four up in
four
the front.
side, yeah,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
said you wanted to leave the two when they walk in.
yeah. And these were initially they're like midget size. I had to
Yeah, they
stretch
were
them up.
they were about to his knees.
Yeah. So this is where Truffles works online. Back here, and this will be the front of the store that goes out into the mall. So pretty good job, dude. So then lastly, there's the interior of the mall, which is just going to be the exterior of the store. It's not the whole mall itself. And I knew this was going to be a bit more of a challenge for you. So this right here is where the store would fit. And then I just wanted a lobby, just a section of the mall that you could block out. We'd have some water fountains, and then there's going to be this long line of people who are trying to buy their copies of Grand Theft Auto. I think the game takes place when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. I mean, the story takes place when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. I actually have a calendar for when the story takes place, and their years converted to Earth years. So that'll be in the book. But some particular challenges with this one, Brandon?
Oh yeah, and you think like scale, like those steps right there, and if you zoom in to the steps to the far right, and there you see how tall the first step is. I mean, people are gonna really have to lunge, and then you got these little baby steps in between, and you don't realize that it's noticeable once you point out something like that, that these steps are all wrong, and that would never work in a mall, and that would never work for whatever you're trying to create. So, in my opinion, I always try to create something that maybe you can go a little fantastical with things with people and their bodies and proportion, but if you're building actual structures like this, try to think what would be practical and real, and not just
It helps when you put the scale dude though, man. Like you kept going, why are you put the fucking dude in there, man? Like so you can just see it, you know? Because I think sometimes you just kind of forget, you know.
right.
So then now, and at first I think when you first showed me this, I was like, you need to stick the store in there as quick as humanly possible, which I knew you were hesitant to do because you're like, that's going to require a lot of effort. I'm like, yeah, well, you should have started with the store and built around it because this looks like a lot of work, dude. Like when you go back here, you see this, it's almost a completely different.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And
It's like
it's just simple things too that you just corrected me on. Upper level, how much room they'd have to walk, the fountains, the plug in the actual store so you could have a scale of how things would look.
see this amount of little like detail right here in the background is what I didn't want to have to figure out. Um, I have, folks. I mean, dig through my gallery, especially the unused stuff, the stuff that's unpublished. You'll see pages and pages of comic book art that I drew where I can do this. But it takes a lot of fucking effort. And in my age, I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't spend a week, working that out anymore. Like I've just given up. Like I've done it. I've paid my dues, but I'm glad that you're here now because I didn't want to have to figure that out, dude. You know, I would have just had to fake it. There'd be no back. It'd just be like the glowing windows.
Right.
Uh, And so now this is you starting to model in upper stairs. And you
Right.
fix the fountains too, right? See how these are not the way I wanted the fountains to look at all. These look like triangles, and I wanted them to have these beveled edges everywhere. And you can see how you came in and hooked up all those little bevels and shit, which makes a big difference. And then you started blocking in these stores.
Yeah, I started to just open them up and just see what it'll actually look like instead of just the one store. And I raised the distance between the first floor and the second floor where people walk on, so it actually looks like it's got some weight and actual foundation to it, as to where the other
Yeah,
one
before it
is.
was too thin, right? Like, look at
Yeah,
this.
yeah, that's just like a
Yeah,
carport rail. That's not
yeah.
much.
And then your nice low res here.
Ah, yes.
Final shot. So I locked you down on a camera angle and then showed you where I think the shot will be in the book. And then we sort of placed stuff in these rooms randomly based off what you'd actually see,
Right, and added the
right?
rail upstairs so no one
And you put a
falls.
ton of people now, right?
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
This is probably still too big a front step, but I think I said fuck it, I'll just
It's
fucking
it's
figure.
a good workout step.
I'll just sketch over it. I don't give a shit. I can fucking draw a stair. So let's look at the model. I mean, go right in here, and it's there. It's plugged right in. You can see the nice software, etc. style. Yeah. Game Cave, the Rift Mall.
Yeah, I mean you could zoom into some of those stores on the right. I mean, I added shelves on the walls, clocks. You know, I mean it's not as much detail as like the game, the gaming store, but I still made sure that it's not like you're just having to fill in all this
Yeah, plus I
blank
gotta
space.
draw over the stuff anyway, so I'm like I'm gonna add details and paint stuff in.
Right,
They aren't going in the book just as is.
right.
So
That's a
yeah.
shoe store at the top right.
No ma'am.
That's
No ma'am's right up
no
here.
man. That's why it's got the little rounded bench area, so everyone can sit there and try on their shoes.
Nice mall directories.
And you got the escalator over there on the right that may or may
Yeah.
not be used.
May or may not. Depends on the shot, how it ends up working out in the book. Something like this. Depends on how I wanna do that. So good job, dude. And so then you started on the spaceship, the airships, and you realized SketchUp sucks for that. And so now you're working on Maya.
They were horrible.
Yeah, so right now Brandon's working on the airships models, but he needs to. It'll probably take about a week to go through the Maya training. And you can see here he's got this is my concept art for the Jolly Dagger. You'll be modeling this and uh, this stuff here,
Yeah, I
the
tried to make
mother
that in
load.
SketchUp and it was bad.
Yeah,
Very bad.
plus cockpit area. It'd be nice. Have a nice 3D cutout. So, and the reason why you're modeling this stuff versus me just is because I'm gonna have these things flying around and doing stuff, and I don't want to figure it out over and over. Like drawing something like this is fun for me, but then for I'll show you folks for these particular shots, like there are storytelling shots like this. It'd be nice just to take the final model, throw it in there,
Right.
rotate it, and just work my magic. So plus the right here, so you can see this is where the exterior, the interior of the Jolly Dagger would go. Um, Motherlode, Scum Fighter designs, and then like chapter two, this is where these shot, and it won't. So you can see there's my rough sketch, right?
Mm.
That I actually went back over. This is actually the second rough that I did. This is before you modeled. So that you stayed pretty close to my modeling, like my little drawing. This is me freehanding this. God, where was that sketch? I don't know where that's. It should be right here in this fucking book. I draw everything in this book. Where did I sketch that? That is
You
so
have,
weird.
I thought you had 2 books, but
I might have sketched that on a piece of paper. It's up here. I got it around here somewhere. But this is just me freehanding. You'd think I did that over your model, so that's pretty good, dude. You know?
yeah, trying
But
to
no,
make them as accurate as can be to what you draw, but also be able to be rotated.
now I can rotate your fucking model and add depth, you know?
Right.
So it's not just all classical Final Fantasy style isometrics here. The exterior shot of them all will go here, and then some other stuff. So here's where pretzel port. That's some stuff that we still got to do some basic block modeling on. Mo ship fixie is basic stuff. Direct Jolly Dagger. I don't know. I think I might just have to sketch that over here. Marketville will be a block model. Um, but these aren't going to be incredibly. The Marketville one might be a little bit more effort. What I think we'll do, the Pocket Blade, which is already designed and drawn. Uh, this is where the Crepes art will go. The exterior, the interior will go there. Uh, Big Leaguers, which is those chefs I've shown you. So yeah, like everything's worked out and marked. You know what I mean? Like Holger, this is these characters. This is where they'll go. And me, I wasn't trying to add. I'm not trying to add tons of art. You know, just
Right.
key things that I think should go there and what characters look like, what places look like, and then a couple key storytelling things that I think, when you read a comic, you turn the page, you get a nice big piece of art during a fight or something.
Right.
Especially during the climax, I think that would be very important. Like this right here, this is gonna be a major fight piece. You'll turn the page, and boom, you know, and then an additional, and that'll look really cool, And that's what I'd rather spend my time drawing, say, than say a comic book where you're drawing a ton of little panels that you read in 3 seconds.
Right.
Um, oh man, I've invented something, right? Like this doesn't exist. I don't think. I've not seen it. So it's gonna be real nice to see it all like flow together. And it's chapter 7 stuff, which I haven't blocked in the final text yet because I'm in the middle of fixing that. So let me go down my list of stuff to do to talk about. What else do we have? What is next? So next, I got to finish modifying chapters 7 and 8. I'm about halfway through that. Again, I had to take a little bit of a break. Story feedback. I'll make a separate update here in about a week or so once I'm done writing 7 and 8, a couple weeks. And I'll be asking for people to give me specific, to read through and give me any notes or feedback. I already have one or two people doing that, but it'd be nice for the backers to give you all a chance if you'd like to do it. Doesn't mean I'm going to take your opinions, but I do want to see what is and isn't working beyond just the few opinions I have now. Um, so I can make those changes if I want to, and then lock down this art stuff. Moving forward with volumes 2 and 3, I won't be. This will all be written before I block in these little pieces of art because this is going to take. If I make changes, it requires me to fuck around with some of this, which I don't want to do. So, you know, sorry, folks. Sorry. Wow, that was tough. Uh, what was I saying? So yeah, feedback, and then any changes I need to make there, and then the Butter Bay Mega Shot. So first you got the ships to do. Then we got a few block models left to make based off some sketches I'll do. Game Cave, the Game Cave shop. And then the last big thing to model would be the Butter Bay. model, which I did a piece of concept art for, which I've posted before as cover art for Game Cave, and I did it last spring actually. Down the list. Luckily, I keep everything in the Facebook. This is another reason why I quickly do this. I don't have to dig through my own archives. Uh, whereas digging through here now is, for a guy who doesn't do much. So this proves I've been working. Where is it? Here you go. So this is a rough concept of the exterior of Butter Bay, where there'd be these waterfalls, and then um,
Ships flying by.
this is Port Town. This is a port that extends, and they're all docked. So I've got this more worked out since with the map and everything, and there'll be. But yeah, you'll want to model this whole thing because I don't want to figure all that out. like we'll get it worked out. But I remember when I initially sketched this, I was like, oh, it's gonna be a fucking pain to draw, man. Like, like
Right.
I'm like, this was me. I actually did a rough SketchUp model right here. This is what this very rough, and then blocked in these buildings. I'm like, oh, it's gonna take. I'm gonna be here for. It's gonna take 2 weeks per image,
Right.
which I don't want to do. So that's got to be done. The final character art needs to be after that, and then any story art needs to be done. So it's a truck of work, folks. I won't lie. It's going. It's getting done. I did lose a month, so you know that I feel bad about, but tragedy does strike. In the next update, again, the next update, I will put a call out for the text for feedback on that. Um, oh, so you all know I also did a writing podcast. I wrapped up the podcast, actually ended it after 4 years, but I did do a Game Cave writing update, and I'll post a link for that so you can kind of get in detail on the story. I went in there with Bacon. James talked to me. And then there were the two backers that did their gaming layouts. Also at the gaming layouts. As soon as the writing's done, all the time that I spend writing now will be used to work on the gaming portion of the magazine. So I have to refigure out some of the text for that, even though it was all written last December, um, because it takes place in different periods of Game Cave. I have each period already worked out. I know everyone who worked at Game Cave, all the editors, all the freelancers throughout every year. It's all been done. So I'll have to retweak that verbiage to fit those people. And then the two backers, they'll be freelancers, obviously, for Game Cave, and then I'll get them plugged in. And the goal is to get this out during the summer at the latest. So uh, I'm trying not to. Here's the thing, folks. I will never pre-sell something again. You know what I mean? Like, it will
Right.
never happen. I never wanted to. I've been pretty vocal about that. It's just the way the situation worked out. I was kind of pressured into doing that. And then I was like, oh, but game magazine, and so that's my bad, and I've taken pretty good ownership. But that being said, the product is definitely getting done, and I think it's looking like it's worth, you know, time involved. Brandon, if you disagree with anything, you don't have to kiss my ass. You know what I mean? Like, um,
No,
what do you?
I
You
think
backed. You're a backer, so
yeah,
like.
I think you're very detail orientated, and that's a good thing. And sometimes that's the drawback that it might take a little longer with some things, but then in the end, it's worth it. And I know you wouldn't expect any less from anything you buy, so why put out something that you wouldn't be proud of and you wouldn't want to back as well? And I mean, that's just like when you asked me to sign up. I mean, yeah, I didn't have anything going on, but I also didn't have to spend many, many nights working on this. I mean, my end, I went to go visit my wife's family in California, and I ended up taking my whole computer with me and staying up the nights before Christmas working on that first 3D model, just spending hours up all night doing it. So, you know,
Nah, man, and I definitely appreciate it. The level of detail will be there. Like
right,
That's what I'm most happy about is that these pages, this looks pretty good. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
this looks pretty good. The gaming magazine portions are going to look, I mean, in case people have forgotten what that looks like, I can kind of jump back to, you know, Street Fighter 2. Well, I don't think I've shown too much of the. I did do the Mortal Kombat 2, and that'll stay in the book. So these are not there. These pages. So aside from this rough piece of art here, but you can see like the retro screens and like this is something that I haven't even like shown off yet, but
I
like
haven't even seen this.
on the Genesis portion, I actually went through and created these all the for a lot of these are like all the carts that ever existed for Mortal Kombat 2.
Uh,
And I hand drew this stuff too, so it got like Game Gear, and I put screens in there, the six pad Sega controller. That's all hand drawn. I made stickers out of the pixels, little halftone dots on them too. Gave tokens, you know.
all right.
Um, so there's like stuff like that, and then we've seen the Street Fighter stuff, but I mean when you start to like, you know, if this is
Right.
this, mixed in with this stuff, like it's gonna be. It's just I can finally see it. You know what I mean? Like actually existing. So with the art and everything else, the only thing I have to do is here it's Truffles, and this takes place during the early '90s, and Truffles wasn't even born. Her mother used to work at Game Cave. Um, so luckily she looks a lot like her mom. So I just got to recolor her hair, and that'll be her mom. So that's how that'll work. I kind of lucked out on that, but I got to take Ashley out here. So yeah, but yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool, dude. I'm this stuff won't be used as much, but yeah, you have any comments or questions, Brandon?
No, I'm
Everything?
just looking at it. Sorry, this is stuff I haven't even seen. So just neat to see. So I'm sure anyone watching the video would just be like, oh, this is pretty rad to see. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
this was initially when I wasn't gonna do the story, I had all these games plugged in. You know,
right.
you can even see I drew Super Nintendo versions of this stuff, which won't be used. So whatever. Yeah, look at this. So, and then that's the initial. I still gotta draw this stuff. That art will still make it. That's my roughie. So I did get everything blocked in initially, but I, if I have to choose between filling this up with 120 pages worth of game reviews or 60 pages of game reviews and 60 to 100 pages of story, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I just think like having a universe is more important to me than just having a game magazine. And by the current state of game magazines, I think I'm right. Plus, what's great about this is one of the complaints that I used to get when I did GameFam from previous staffers, whom I'm friends with, but you get snipes, and it's like rotated screens. No one does it anymore. Oh no, screenshot borders. Those are evil. It's like, well, there'll be minimalist layouts too. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there'll be this, and there'll be the old Nintendo Power with the little. Remember the maps?
Yeah.
Little game maps that those will be in. So there'll be something of everything. So no one can fucking complain. You know what I mean? Like it's all in there actually, assholes. And so ha ha ha, I win. So where's the Do I have the best hits in here? I laid all this stuff out. It's somewhere. So, and I'll post again most of those. I will be doing a whole video um, of me laying out these. I'm gonna record it and then do a speed video too of when I do the game magazine layouts
Hmm.
because I think that'll be interesting. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever recorded that shit
Right.
and then sped it up. So that'll be different. So, all right, that's it for the Game Cave update. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you on the next one. You can join us at SketchCraft, sketch.com. That'll take you right to the YouTube page. Sketchcraft.net will take you to the Facebook page. So, Brandon will be joining me there. Brandon, I look forward to seeing what you accomplish here on Maya. I know initially it will suck, and then
I
eventually we
am
will have great
I
stuff.
am scared and excited at the same time. It's
uh,
like being at your first dance. You know you want to go out there, but you're just afraid how you'll look.
It is cool to show your friends though what you've been working on, right?
Yeah,
And them
it's
go,
it's
"You did that?" Like,
yeah, it's very shocking to them. It's you did that. It's like, well, yeah, I did that. What's what's that
"Oh
big deal?
yeah, now you know what I mean, right?" When people go, "You did that," and you're like, "You think I can't do anything?"
Right.
Yeah, that's like when people go, "You laid that out?" Yeah, and you colored it? Yeah, and you wrote it? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah.
Dicks. You know? You didn't do your own 3D modeling though, huh? Yeah, Brandon. You know what I mean? Like, you're right. He did all the work. My bad. I cheated. So, all right. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I will see you on the next update. Talk later. Bye.